This is a recording for Winter Classic. The 7 Habits of Highly Efficient Cult Leaders. Article 1. Grooming. Your appearance must be polished, at least at first. Only later on your cult's development may degenerate into bad hygiene, but be warned, if you go natural too early in your cult's development, you will just be smelly, and this will destroy your cult in its infancy. It was November 18th, 1978, and cult leader Jim Jones needed to convince over 900 of his followers that they needed to die. As members of the People's Temple Church were forced to drink cyanide-laced punch, they screamed, wept, and argued. Slowly, they began to die. Throughout the history of the world, power-hungry people have continued to pry on the desperate kids and unfulfilled patrons of society in order to feed their own personal agendas. Although cult leaders and members alike may think that they are changing the world and improving their lives, these organizations do have a strange tendency of crashing and burning eventually, most likely due to very illegal activity, possibly including, but not limited to, child marriages, unregistered firearms, and/or death Kool-Aid? Ugh. So, using articles, Jonestown Radio Network from History.com, Life as a 14-Year-Old Manson Girl from History.com, Waco Siege from History.com, The 7 Habits of Highly Efficient Cult Members from History.com, and Nation About Due for Big Cult Suicide from The Onion, all illustrate the true nature of these harmful societies. And Cultivating Catastrophe, a program, because nobody deserves that level of psychological torment. Well, it's less of a matter of if, but when. You say, because what I would do if I were some crazy demented guru with an insatiable thirst for power and teenage girls is I would rent out a condo inside Pocatello, round up a group of desperate, unemployed locals, give them all a handful of sedatives and a teeny tiny little plastic bag tied around their heads and force them to ascend with me to Star Headquarters 46298 before the next perennial lunar eclipse. You say it's fast, it's simple, and it might even solve a lot of their problems. It was February 23rd, 1993, and some 80 agents with the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms raided a religious commune at Mount Carmel near Waco, Texas, after reports that the Branch Davidians and their leader David Koresh had violated multiple firearm regulations. Well, because that's basically like suicide. You know, if a group decides to engage with the federal government over the right to stockpile illegal weapons and forcibly marry a child or two, sure, we could easily chalk that up to suicide, no problem. 1967 was the summer of love, but in sunny Southern California, something sinister was brewing. There, in the desert foothills of the Santa Susana Mountains, cult leader Charles Manson was establishing his polygamous commune, in which he prophesied that he was the second coming of Christ, the Beatles were his prophets, and that a violent race war was imminent. 2 years later, in the summer of 1969, the group's collective psychosis reached its macabre peak, with Manson family members slaying over 7 people in the course of 2 nights, including Hollywood starlet Sharon Tate, who was just weeks away from giving birth to her first child. While investigators did not release any details on how the suicides are likely to take place, they did not rule out cult members ingesting cyanide at the behest of their leader, self-immolation, or just chopping their balls off or whatever. But during the summer of love, Diane Lake wasn't looking for bloodshed. She just wanted an invitation, any invitation, to the party. Communes were on the rise. There was lots of free love and I'm lost flooding the streets, but the counterculture didn't have a place for a sexually active 14-year-old. And Diane became jailbait. Article 2. Strength. It is wise to be physically stronger than everyone else in your cult. This gives you the appearance of vitality and makes others look up to you. This would also come in handy in the case that you are, for example, unmasked as a fraud and must run for your life from crazed cult members. In this case, it would also be handy to keep your followers on a low-protein diet. Very low. This will affect both their muscle mass and cognitive abilities. To the Branch Davidians, David was the lamb. the only one, according to the Book of Revelation, capable of unlocking the 7 seals and revealing the entirety of the Bible to the rest of the world. However, this identification allowed him to get away with some of his more controversial practices, such as taking spiritual wives as young as 11 years old. Article 3. Fellowship. Create a sense of fellowship by secluding small treats as if they are a big deal. Nothing creates a sense of fellowship more than gelatin desserts. Stock up on crackers as well. Blake recalls 10 to 15 Manson family members settling into the commune lifestyle at Span Ranch, an old movie set that Manson had taken over as his commune. Their daily activities included rummaging through the garbage for food, caring for horses, and renting them out for rides. Most notably, late afternoons singing songs with Manson. But there was a darker side. Manson was known to force his members to participate in group orgies, which Lake recalls being done very methodically. He would begin the sessions by handing out LSD like a sacrament, and then arranging partners and ordering people to take off their clothes in specific orders he would choose. Article 6. Creating aura. Creating aura isn't difficult once you understand your target demographic. To work in a countercultural cult, grow your hair long. To work in the more traditional Christian tradition, cut it short. Or make it big and poofy in the televangelical style, but not long. Eyebrows are also crucial. They say eyes are the windows to the soul, and if this is true, then eyebrows are the curtains to the drama raging in your eyes. Overdeveloped eyebrow muscles are necessary for browbeating skeptics into submission and otherwise mesmerizing your followers with their intensity. Physique. For a countercultural cult, you must ideally be either very thin, the emancipated wise man, or very well built. This gives you the appearance of vitality and proves your immortal essence. But I digress. Even potly individuals can run cults, but this is mostly due to followers subconsciously comparing you to the Buddha. You should encourage these comparisons. Using code, Jones told Amos, "You are going to meet Mr. Fraser," his code for death. It was an instruction to kill everyone at headquarters, including themselves. In a later transmission, Amos told Jones that the Jonestown group had nothing to commit suicide with. Their answer came back shortly, in more code. K-N-I. The transmission was cut off, but his intentions were made clear, and Amos understood what she was to do. She was to use knives to kill herself and everyone else at headquarters. She tried to get the others to follow through, but they backed. So her solution was to run to the kitchen, collect a butcher's knife and her 3 children, 22-year-old Leanne, 10-year-old Krista, and 9-year-old Mike, and run to the bathroom, where she would first slit the throats of her 2 youngest as they screamed in agony as the woman they trusted most took the life out of their small bodies. Then she moved on to Leanne and later herself. Only 9 people survived the Branch Davidian siege, 27 of the dead were children, all having been found with signs of murder or murder-suicide. After the Manson family murders, the group was rounded up and taken to jail, where 2 months later, Diane finally told investigators her true age and was moved to a mental facility. She is alive and well today. Well, it is in our opinion that there is a fringe organization operating somewhere in the United States. I mean, it's been 10, 12 years since the last suicide. Too long. We're all going to turn on our news one day and really just be thinking, wow, those people are nuts.